G'day, how's it going? I'm your host TK and welcome to another episode of Test Drive. Today, we'll be looking at the DJI RS3 Combo Gimbal. This is what it looks like, minus the camera. As you can see, I've attached the briefcase handle. You'll typically hold it like this, or like this. And when you're finished shooting and you want to rest the gimbal, just open the tripod legs and put it on any surface. These tripod legs have a rubbery grip, so it's pretty stable. Okay, so here are the issues that I found with the gimbal. First one being is the weight of this. I use a Sony a7S III plus a G Master lens. That camera and that lens on top of this gimbal, altogether, it is quite heavy. When you're filming something for an extended period of time, you will feel that muscle ache and that soreness. This doesn't even have the camera or the lens on it, and this is like 800, 900 grams. You are gonna be on shoots where you're doing pans and tilts, location shoots, interviews when you're simply just standing up, and you've got to prepare yourself. You've got to be prepared to know the heaviness of this. Another issue I found is the time-consuming process of having to alternate between different modes. These kinds of setups, it's not like they take a minute. You will be sitting down for at least 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes, having to adjust the camera settings, having to adjust the internal settings in the gimbal, and also with new attachments to the camera. Every time you change to a different mode, you have to recalibrate it because the weight has changed, and that recalibration process eats more of your time. So I was on a shoot and I was filming an empty classroom, and this was like close to the floor, and I was raising it, but then suddenly it went haywire and it started spinning and the whole setup went crazy on me. And in that moment, I felt a deep sense of fear that this whole thing would break. But to play devil's advocate, I think that the malfunctioning was an intentional defense mechanism so that the internal software wouldn't go berserk and fry the microchips. I found installing the software relatively easy. In terms of the physical installation, I wasn't personally overwhelmed with the amount of parts because there were only about 11 or 12 components. I found following the manual quite easy. And with cleaning this, you just got to use a light brush or a lightly damp cloth. You just got to make sure that you avoid the areas where water can seep in. Installation and maintenance, I give this an 8 out of 10. Performance-wise, I found this super great. It did everything that I expected. I was super impressed with the test footage. I just couldn't believe how smooth those shots looked. I don't really have any serious qualms about the footage, but we will talk about follow speed. Okay, so on this gimbal, in the internal settings, you can customize the follow speed. Is when you are filming a person or a thing that's moving, and you change the settings here depending on how quick that subject is moving. I had my colleague Neil help me out with this test. So I got Neil to walk in front of me, and I was tracking him, and I got him to walk at 3 different speeds. And with each of his walking speeds, I had to adjust the follow speed settings in here, and the results were varied. In the first and the third test, this gimbal, it tracked Neil's head perfectly smooth, and it was so seamless, I did not notice anything. But with the second test, the average speed walking test, in the middle of it does this sudden movement which caught me off guard. And yeah, that was something very particular that I found. I also did the running test, where I ran holding the gimbal. I found there were like little bumps that you could notice. To do a comparison, the first clip is the raw footage and the second clip is the footage with warp stabilizer. Performance and durability, I give this an 8 out of 10. Okay, so from a design and aesthetic perspective, I really like the colors and the matte finish. There's not too many buttons to the point where you're not overwhelmed. It is very nice to look at. It's so, like, it looks very sleek and modern and contemporary. And just the quality is fantastic. I mean, this is like a really, really good metal here. And this rubber grip, which is very ergonomic. You also have the rubber grips on the charging base, but also the tripod legs. If you're not using the briefcase clip, you have rubber grips. Style and quality, I give this a 10 out of 10. It's not too simple, but it's also not too complicated. It's easy to follow once you get used to the controls and once you get used to the setup. So using the briefcase handle and also the two side handles, I don't have a personal preference. When I'm doing left to right dollies or left to right pans and so forth, I like to use the side handles. If I like doing a dolly through a room or tilting up and down, I prefer using the briefcase handle. I do highly recommend investing in those side handles because it makes the gimbal use less physically strenuous. If you're a noob like me, this was my first proper gimbal that I've used. The fact that I got used to using this after 2 or 3 times, that says a lot about its ease of use. Ease of use, I give this a 9 out of 10. You get paper manuals, right? I prefer not to have paper manuals as I just want to, go on my computer and just scroll through the PDF, and some people actually prefer these, but for me, it's just more waste of trees. There are 2 pieces of foam cloth, but these are here just to protect the hardware and to protect the pieces. And in terms of the tiny accessories, only 2 pieces of plastic, which is great. To be sparse with plastic, I think that's a really great initiative by DJI. Logistics and eco-friendliness, I give this an 8 out of 10. Okay, so the RS3 Pro screen, this is a major upgrade from the RS2 screen, which is smaller. Another innovation I liked was the Bluetooth wireless camera control. The previous model, the RS-C2, did not have this feature. Innovation, I give this an 8 out of 10. Regards to warranty, you can purchase 1 or 2 years worth of DJI Care Refresh. However, in the fine print, you can only purchase this warranty only if your gimbal has not been activated or has been activated for less than 30 days. In my opinion, the activation period having a 30-day window is stupid. Warranty, I have to give this a 5 out of 10. The virtual joystick, for instance, if I press that, this phone becomes a virtual joystick. You can operate your gimbal from a distance. And also, without touching the gimbal or the camera, you can press record. Another thing I love about the Create page is Force Mobile. Whatever I do with my phone, the gimbal copies. Hey, Mr. Gimbal, are you excited for the weekend? Cool factor? I give this a 9 out of 10. Now, is this available? Yes and no. Some places, such as JB Hi-Fi, this is out of stock. It's very much in high demand. I did a little bit more research and I found that there were some sites where this was very much available and you could purchase it immediately and it would ship to your door between 7 and 12 days. Availability, I give this a 9 out of 10. It is quite heavy, but considering the innovations and the build and the performance of it, the footage that you get, the incredible ease of use of it, the pros very much outweigh the cons. Because this is so adjustable for a variety of cameras, I do think that it warrants its price tag. Value, I give this an 8 out of 10. So that's the DJI RS3 Combo Gimbal. If you enjoyed today's video, give us a like, leave a comment, and if you haven't already, subscribe to us. I'll see you next time on the next episode of Test Drive. See ya.